Wow, this jollof rice is very delicious. Give me more, please, Mr. Olamide exclaimed, his face shining with happiness as he scraped the last grains from his plate. The rich aroma of the food filled the air, tempting everyone nearby. Madame Bola's restaurant was alive with energy. Customers laughing, plates clinking, orders flying from the kitchen. It was a sight to behold. Her restaurant wasn't just popular, it had become the heartbeat of the community, a place where people came together to share meals and stories. But things weren't always like this. No. Just a few months ago, Madame Bola's business was on the edge of collapse. And it all started when Miss Dorcas, a young girl straight out of catering school, opened her restaurant across the street near Madame Bola's restaurant. But, oh, Miss Dorcas didn't just open any restaurant. No, hers was a masterpiece, a big, bold, and vibrant place. The kind of place you couldn't ignore. Her walls were bright, her food smelled amazing, and the aroma called to you like a sweet song. And her prices, very affordable. Even those with no money could come and enjoy a big, hearty meal. And the food, it was excellent, better than anyone had ever imagined. But her success wasn't by chance. No. Miss Dorcas had been the best in her catering school, always topping her classes, earning praises from everyone. Her restaurant, it quickly became the talk of the town. As Miss Dorcas's place grew bigger, Madame Bola's restaurant began to shrink. Day by day, her customers slowly disappeared, lured away by Miss Dorcas's tempting offers and her superior food. The empty tables in Madame Bola's restaurant seemed to stare back at her, mocking her. Her losses piled up. Madame Bola tried to keep the light on. She cooked her regular food, hoped for a miracle, and prayed her customers would return. But they didn't. Her tables stayed empty, and the money, it kept draining. One afternoon, a young footballer, Donald, walked down the street, tired and hungry after a tough match. His stomach growled loudly, and he stopped a friend, Felix, who was relaxing on a bench sipping a cold drink. "Where can I find a restaurant? I'm starving," Donald asked, his voice full of desperation. Felix smiled and replied, "Oh, that's easy. Go to Miss Dorcas's restaurant. She's the best cook in the whole street, maybe even in all of Lagos." "Where is it?" Donald asked, his eyes wide with excitement. Felix pointed down the road. "Just walk straight, take the first left by the school, and you'll see it. Big building, you can't miss it." Eager, Donald followed the directions, walking quickly, hungry for something good. But when he reached the spot, he saw 2 restaurants. 2. He was confused. He went into the nearest one, which happened to be Madame Bola's. After finishing his meal, Donald looked down at his plate and frowned. The food wasn't bad, but it wasn't great either. It wasn't what he had expected from the best cook in Lagos. "But my friend told me she's the best cook," he muttered as he got up to leave. As he stepped outside, he met another friend, Vincent, another footballer he knew. "Donald, long time no see." Vincent greeted with a big smile, shaking Donald's hand. "Hey, Vincent," Donald replied. "Quick question, do you know the best cook in this street?" Vincent laughed out loud. "Everybody knows it's Miss Dorcas. You must be new here." Donald sighed and slumped his shoulders. "Oh no, I think I went to the wrong place." "You definitely did," Vincent said. "Madame Bola, she's still learning. Miss Dorcas is the real deal. Next time, go to her place. You won't regret it." Donald nodded. "Thanks, Vincent. I'll make sure to try her food next time." But while they spoke, Madame Bola was listening, standing quietly by the kitchen window. She heard every word. Each word cut her deeper than the last. Her heart sank as the shame filled her like a heavy weight. She slowly sank to the floor, her tears streaming down her face as she held her apron. Her mind screamed with hurt, doubt, and pain. "You're not good enough. You've lost. She's better than you." "Why me?" Madame Bola whispered, her voice shaking. "Who did I offend? Why, after everything I've done, after all my struggles? Why?" Her body felt drained as the tears kept flowing. But as the hours passed, something changed. A small but strong spark of determination lit up inside her. By the time the sun rose the next morning, Madame Bola was ready. Her eyes were puffy from crying, but her fists were clenched, full of resolve. "I will show Miss Dorcas who I am," she shouted, her voice trembling but powerful. "She thinks she's the best cook. She thinks she can destroy my business. No, I will show her what it means to lose." That very morning, as Madame Bola walked to the market, she ran into Miss Dorcas. "Good morning, Ma." Miss Dorcas smiled brightly, like the sun itself, but Madame Bola wasn't in the mood for any kindness. Her anger boiled up, and she glared at her younger rival. "You think you're the best cook in this street," she snapped. "You came to spoil my business, but I will deal with you." Miss Dorcas blinked, surprised. "Ma, I didn't mean to ruin your business," she said softly. "I'm just doing my best. Maybe you could improve your recipes, or I could even teach you some things." Her words, though kind, only felt like mockery to Madame Bola. With her fists clenched, Madame Bola spun around and stormed off, her heart full of plans for revenge. That week, she packed her bags and travelled to her village to seek advice from her mother, a wise, sharp-eyed woman who had seen many things in her life. When Madame Bola arrived, her mother welcomed her with open arms. They shared a meal and talked about everything. But then, the conversation grew serious. "Mama," Madame Bola said quietly, "my business, it's failing." Her mother looked at her, eyes narrowing, studying her daughter. "What happened, Bola? Tell me everything." Through tears and frustration, Madame Bola told her mother about Miss Dorcas's rise and her own fall. Her mother listened quietly, carefully, her face unreadable. When Madame Bola finished speaking, her mother sat back and smiled. A strange smile, almost dangerous. "Don't worry, my child. There is a way to fix this, but it will take sacrifice." Madame Bola's eyes widened. "I'll do whatever it takes, Mama. Anything." Her mother's smile deepened, and there was a spark of something dark in her eyes. "Good, then let us begin." That evening, Madame Bola sat in her mother's small, neat hut, listening intently as her mother explained the plan. The room was dimly lit by an oil lamp, and the air felt heavy, full of secrets and power. Her mother brought out 2 calabashes. "These," she said, placing them on the floor carefully, "will bring you success." Madame Bola's eyes widened as her mother revealed the contents. One calabash held thick, red palm oil that shimmered in the lamp's light. The other contained a murky, foul-smelling liquid with floating scorpions, cockroaches, and worms. Madame Bola flinched but didn't speak. "Listen closely, Bola," her mother said, her voice low and serious. "Every morning, before you start cooking, you must rub this palm oil over your entire body. It will protect you from bad luck and bring customers to your restaurant." Madame Bola nodded, her eyes fixed on the calabash. "But that's not all," her mother continued, her voice darker now. "You must use this water, the sacred mixture, for your cooking. Just a small amount in every dish. And the people will come. They will love your food. Even the best chefs will be no match for you." Madame Bola swallowed hard, fear and resolve battling inside her. "Mama, are you sure this will work?" Her mother's eyes pierced hers. "Have I ever failed you before? Trust me, Bola, but there is one condition. No one must ever see these calabashes. If anyone discovers them, the spell will break and your misfortune will return, stronger than before. Do you understand?" "Yes, Mama, I understand," Madame Bola whispered, her voice full of fear, but also determination. Her mother placed a hand on her shoulder. "Good, now go, my child. Go and show that girl what it means to challenge you." The next morning, Madame Bola packed the calabashes carefully, hiding them well. She hugged her mother and thanked her, then set off on the long journey back to Lagos. Her future was uncertain, but one thing was clear. Madame Bola was ready to fight, and win. The battle between Madame Bola and Miss Dorcas had only just begun. The sun rose lazily over Lagos as Madame Bola returned to her small restaurant. The streets bustled with life, but her mind was consumed with thoughts of the calabashes hidden in her bag. "This is my time," she whispered to herself. "No one will take my crown again." Before dawn, Madame Bola locked herself in her kitchen. She opened the first calabash, her hands trembling slightly as she dipped them into the thick red palm oil. Slowly, she rubbed it over her body, murmuring the words her mother had taught her. The oil glistened, warm and sticky, as though alive with a power she couldn't fully understand. Next, she opened the second calabash. The foul stench hit her nose, making her gag. She quickly poured a few drops of the dark liquid into the large pot of stew bubbling on her stove. As she stirred the mixture, a strange sensation washed over her. The air around her seemed to hum, and for the first time in months, a smile crept onto her face. To be continued. Please like and subscribe for part 2.